Hi, I'm Scott Wrighton. I serve as Decatur's city manager, and it's our pleasure as a city government to tell you a little bit about what's going on every week. And there's plenty going on. The stuff and the basic mechanism of city government is extensive, and sometimes I feel like these weekly updates just scratch the surface. At its last city council meeting, the mayor and city council adopted an ordinance having to do with the regulation of food trucks. Now, as it turns out, they've been discussing this important policy item for a long time and actually began consideration of it before the pandemic. When pandemic came, they felt like this needed to be parked a little bit because of the issues around that, and because in fact the whole landscape about how we encourage small businesses that might be selling food and what kind of gatherings it created needed to be postponed while the community and the state got through pandemic. But with that, appearing to subside, they have brought up a lot of other issues that they've had to park during pandemic, and the regulation of food trucks was one of them. Now, food trucks have always been allowed in the city of Decatur, but in the central business district in the downtown area, there's a separate set of regulations that pertain to them. The past ordinance also only allowed food trucks to operate for 9 months of the year, and so the city council changed that provision. If somebody wants to sell hot dogs in the middle of January, it doesn't matter to us as long as they get a food handling permit from the county health department and meet all the other regulations. In a broader view, though, the city council sought to create a level playing field between two types of businesses that are fundamentally different: brick and mortar restaurants, especially those that are in the central business district, and startup businesses like food trucks that are more mobile. Food trucks sometimes don't always pay the same sales taxes and other taxes that fixed brick and mortar businesses do, so they sought in this new ordinance to make sure that that was kind of a level playing field. It would seem inappropriate to the mayor and city council for you to park a food truck right across the street from a restaurant. So they said, well, you need to be at least 200 feet away. And there's different sets of rules that would apply with somebody who's putting a food truck in a private parking lot to service employees in a particular area of downtown versus one that's a part of a large festival or celebration or some other kind of an event that happens in Central Park or some other part of the downtown area. So there's different regulations that apply to all of these. And I believe that the mayor and city council really sought hard to try to find that balance between protecting brick and mortar restaurants, particularly those in the central business district, but still providing this opportunity for people to get food in a different way, to have innovative expressions of how food can be created, maybe new menu ideas that are easier to roll out and see if they're going to be viable in a more sustained and brick and mortar way by having them available through food trucks. Also, food trucks can also serve as a destination on their own. So the council wanted that kind of creativity to happen in our community, and especially in the central business district, and so this ordinance allows them to do that. One of the other things that the city council did at its last city council meeting is they entered into a couple of agreements with the Land of Lincoln Credit Union here in Decatur, as well as adopted some other provisions that will guide the rehabilitation programs that we are using through our Economic and Community Development Department to carry forward the city council's neighborhood revitalization objectives. This follows a study session the city council had on April 11 when they approved more than 7 different programmatic initiatives to help property owners, renters with everything from small fix-ups to major renovations of buildings that had deteriorated. And whether somebody needs loan assistance or they need technical assistance or they actually need funding to fill that gap between what fair market value might be and what the actual rehab costs are. Every property is a little bit different, every neighborhood's a little bit different, and so that's why our staff has taken the approach of several different initiatives. And we partnered with the Land of Lincoln Credit Union because all of them, or many of them anyway, rely on making sure that people who have these homes that need rehabilitation, maybe some of them are of limited income, that they can get access to the funds Because yes, some of our loan money actually becomes a grant if you're eligible, which helps that rehabilitation, but oftentimes there's a property owner participation too, and so the work of the city needs to be joined closely with that of local financial institutions that have come alongside us to partner and to make these things work. If you have questions or would like some more information about some of these programs, please feel free to contact our Community Development Department. I've used some of these weekly messages in the past to tell you a little bit about some of the economic development projects that are happening in Decatur, some of which you can see just by driving around town. There's a lot of construction going on in Decatur, major warehouse expansions and facility expansions at Caterpillar, with a new warehouses at the corner of Brush College Road and Mound, Brush College Road and Garber Church Road. The significant expansion in the Mueller manufacturing plant that'll produce here in Decatur one of the largest and most modernized brass foundries in all of North America. The recent announcement and the groundbreaking that'll be scheduled for this fall of Innova Feed that'll be partnering with ADM for to take some of their waste product and produce fertilizer and certain kinds of animal feed. The very first installation of its kind in North America. It's a French company that's moving here. The recent announcement by ADM of nearly $300 million in new investment in our community, and many other economic development projects that the Decatur-Macon County Economic Development Corporation and the City of Decatur are working on. And the reason that I mention this again is that it is transforming the look and feel of industry in Decatur. I mean, Decatur has long been an industrial and manufacturing city. It's one of our assets. It's a key to our labor force. But it is transforming here as it is in many other places. And the terminology that's used to describe it is advanced manufacturing, which is sort of a fancy way of saying, this isn't your grandfather's manufacturing plant anymore. Oftentimes we have a stereotypic view in our minds, I think, of manufacturing facilities as greasy or dirty places. And anymore, the precision, the technology that these plants operate require a lot of technical training, and the look and feel of these industries changes fundamentally. And that's what we're seeing here in Decatur with some of these projects that I've mentioned and some of the ones that are yet to come. The infrastructure necessary to support that is important too. That's why we're negotiating with ADM about how we can provide non-potable processed water to some of these facilities instead of having to give them much more highly costed chlorinated drinking water. It's why ADM has for 10 years now been involved in this carbon sequestration project up in the northeast part of the city, not only for their facilities, but also making that injection of CO2 into a substrata of the ground 7,400 feet below the surface, so that industries that are wanting to capture their carbon rather than release it into the atmosphere, or that may be required to do so later by government, have an opportunity to do so with a facility right here in central Illinois that helps them do that. It's why there's also been negotiations, actually fairly public, about ways to use that CO2, which is generated in large quantities here in central Illinois, as an alternative energy source with a tie-up with a company that we've called 8 Rivers, that is seriously looking at a plant here in Decatur that would use that as an energy source. And that's really important now because all of us are experiencing significant increases in energy costs because of the energy policies of the federal government. And while those are unfortunate, there's been a lot of creativity right here in Decatur, primarily at the industrial side, but I believe that in the long term, our residents will be able to benefit from it too. Why all this is important is that the mayor and council and other community leaders are thinking ahead about how do we make sure that we play on one of our strongest assets here in Decatur, and that is we have the industrial infrastructure to support not only our existing industries, but many more, and including those that are using some of the most advanced technology and are at the cutting edge of this advanced manufacturing trend. That's important because it means more investment in Decatur, it means more jobs for Decatur, and that's important to us, and it drives the policies that we pursue in economic and community development. as time allows and in the future, and as more of these things unfold, we'll be able to give you more details about them. But know that your city leaders are bullish on Decatur because of how this will improve our economy. In fact, we're already seeing it. We're seeing it in the fact that there's even more jobs that are going unfilled. There's more investment in the community, and it's affecting real estate values. So I look forward to sharing more of that with you in future weeks. Thanks very much for tuning into these weekly broadcasts. I appreciate it.